minutes and you're sober. I was driving all the way frantically.
Hey guys, welcome back to another day. We are going to be doing a massive project today. We're taking on a NB project where we're going to be taking out the blown motor, swapping the NB's blown block, transferring the guts over to the NA 1.8 block, and then building it into a 1.8 NB motor to put back into the car, and it should be good as new. So let's get started. We have a lot of work to do. We got the engine, transmission, the automatic transmission off of this motor. This is a very good 1.8 healthy motor that has not been beaten on due to the automatic transmission and just a good service life, low mileage. So we are now going to be, since it's now on the stand, we are going to work on taking apart all the bits and bobs that I need to do on here, bring it down to the bare block as possible. That way I can then start taking out that drivetrain and then doing the reassembly on here. So everything has to come off of here. This is all NA parts. We will not be reusing any of these. These will be just sold off to other people who need stuff to fix their cars. All right, so let's get into further taking this thing apart, and then we can jump on the actual tear apart of the car itself. We need this down to the actual bare as possible. So let's get into it. wrapping up today on part 1 of David's rebuild project. Rick was here with me a lot of the day. Motor stripped apart on the donor motor. This is the good block. This one here, low mileage. This one is going to be used. We cleaned it up very nicely, as much as possible. Hit it with some degreaser and whatnot, so it's not totally disgusting. We got his drivetrain out. We're gonna take this NB head setup. We're gonna take this transmission, and we're gonna mate it to here. We have everything laid out on the project table at the moment, so that way we can piece it all back together. So everything's going pretty good today, and everything went to plan, which is great. So thank you, Rick, for the help. We're gonna go on to day 2 on Friday. We'll be back, and then yeah, we'll go from there. Peace. Okay guys, we're back for round 2 on the Miata rebuild, where we have the blown motor out. This is his transmission, header loose. We're keeping this head, all the accessories and whatnot are being transferred. This block is bad, and it's being put onto this donor block here. We're gonna clean this up, get this ready, and get it ready for its home back in the Miata here. So let's get started on cracking everything apart and transferring all the accessories over, and we'll go from there. All right, let's get to it. Okay, I wanted to touch base really quickly also on the Skyline we had on auction. She unfortunately did not sell. People were being very, very cheap on her. The auction was not bad. It was actually not far off the reserve, but people were just bidding really, really low. Just didn't, I guess, get enough attention right now, which is crazy considering a purple Skyline that was a 99 just hit over $200,000. And this is literally chump change compared to that for such a wonderful, wonderful condition car. 83 in absolutely fantastic condition. She takes beautiful photos, drives great, and overall has like 2 like little imperfections on her like underside that are super like easy to do. Like we'll probably even just do it at this point. We were not giving her away for sure. We'd rather keep her for what we have into her. She's not going anywhere at all. So just want to give you an update on that. The Skyline is here to stay at the moment until we decide what to do next, but we are definitely not giving her away, especially how cool she is. And it's always a great conversation piece every single time we are here at the shop and we have her out and people come by. It attracts positive attention, great people, and to be honest, that might be worth more than the money at that point just because of that. So I personally don't own the car, so we'll see how that's discussed. But otherwise, yeah, personally, I think it might just have to stay with the shop. It's just such a cool car, and there's only like less than a handful in the country, not even exaggerating. So we'll see what goes from there. But for now, just wanted to give you guys an update. She's here to stay. Continuing on the build for a customer's car where we have the 1.8. It's got the blown motor in it. I kind of cut early the other night. It was a very short day. So we have, I kind of got started and I forgot to start. So I caught myself. So let's get into where I continue on. Okay, a little bit of an update. We got the cylinder head onto the engine here. I'll explain that in just a moment. We're working on starting to attach some of the accessories and sensors and whatnot over to this motor. There's a couple key differences between the NB and the NA, and you just gotta move some stuff over. So let's get into that real quick. So those are in A-OK. I put the washers on those, and I just gotta sequence torque those, and that will be all set. I have the cylinder head put in top dead, or not top dead center. Oh, TDC, you know, timing marks. So they're in the right position. They're looking very, very good. The crank is at top dead center. Cylinder 1 is at the very top. Everything's turning out absolutely fantastic on this build so far. Everything looking clean and transferring over very nicely. We just put over the AC bracket and the power steering bracket from the other motor. I can't remember off the top of my head if they are the same. I'm not chancing it. We had to transfer over a sensor, which is next to the dummy oil pressure sensor here. I believe it's a knock sensor that goes up there, and then you run the plug up into this harness keeper right here. So when you button that all up, it's all Gucci. So that's really good. Looking good so far. Uses the same type of little oil cooler thing here. So this is already awesome and good to go. Yeah, it's just little things here and there. I got to transfer over the motor mounts. I can't remember if they are different or if they are the same. So it's another one of those things where I'd rather not chance it. Just going to transfer it over and it'll be good to go. Just use the NB motor mounts right on here. And we're just repurposing this NA lower block into a NB one. I do got to check. I think they are the same. I'm just going to verify on the back there. I'm pretty sure these plates are the same. If they are not, I'm looking at one spot right here and it does look slightly different. So I might just unbolt this plate and swap it over to the other plate and not even chance it. Make sure we use the NB plate instead of the NA plate. We're going to transfer everything over, so there's no questions about it. So when we go into final assembly, there's no like, oh, okay, what if I did this, blah, 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 type shit. So I still gotta swap out, I'm gonna swap out these cam seals, get fresh seals in there, just clean up the throttle body here. It's all little things all buttoning together. Already cleaned faces on all these things. This motor's, by the second, getting cleaner and more together as we go. So let's get back into reassembling this bad boy. It's gonna take a little bit of time, so let's go on to the next segment of our time lapse. So let's go. Okay, status update time. So, Al and Rick were just here at the shop. Sorry, I didn't switch over to the camera. They picked up a parts car, and it's pretty dope. So, I guess we'll go over that next day. It's quite drizzly outside, so I'm not going outside. Working on the motor conversion process, converting the NA block to an NB engine. So, we kind of just stepped over before. We had the sensors and everything bolting out, blah, blah, blah. At the current moment, there is a very, 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 very big major hiccup that is weird to explain, so I kind of got to show you. And there's not many write-ups online. People are just saying, just do it. It's not that simple, so I think I'll explain it here. All right, so you'll see here, I have the sensor. This is the crank position sensor for the NB motors. It is slightly different than the one that's used on the NA motors, which looks like this. It's a very tiny one. Very, very tiny. And it mounts differently. It mounts at a different angle, right? I don't even know how that one reads. It's just reads differently. Because like the Miata, NB Miata one I'm familiar with, because you actually have to move it and then tighten it, and you adjust the gap with a feeler gauge. Because on the crank pulley, you have these marks. All right, there's little teeth on them, and you have 4 of them. So each time it passes one, it's going to trigger the crank position sensor. Okay, that's very, very important. So this is already fixed, so it's not a great way to show you at the moment, but I was running into a dilemma because, so I was trying to get the oil pump off of this one, right? Because I was actually in the fear of, I was having to swap over the oil pump, and I did not want to do that because it involves taking off oil pan, then I have to do that and take it off of that one, blah, blah, blah. It's going to extend the job, and I don't want to do that. So I was looking at the comparison here in the mount. So we have the AC mount, which is almost identical position, and then we have the crank position mount, and it's almost identical position. Well, the difference was there was a little notch here, and then that hole was recessed. So I was like, okay. I checked the bolt lengths. The lengths of the bolt are the same length. I was like, okay. So that means, in theory, same length bolt and flat means should be good. So I was like, okay, so I shouldn't need to actually convert the oil pump and swap them, because on this one, I was like, okay. So I took a collet. I had spare parts, so I took a collet off of one of the timing covers, because I have a spare one, and I chopped it. It's actually shorter than this. This is just an example, right? And I filled the hole so it was flat, and I took an air cutter and I cut the little notch off of the oil pump and flattened it just like how it is on the NB. So you'll actually see now that this now sits flat exactly how it should be on the NB oil pump. And then since the bolt is the same length, and then we flushed it with the little filler, this now sits exactly flat where it needs to be against the oil pump. So that's kind of like a little conversion trick that I kind of just bullshitted my way through instead of having to fucking change the oil pump. That, and also because this oil pump is way younger than the other one. This one's got like literally 100,000 miles less than the other one, and it runs peachy. So why the fuck would I want to put in an old ass oil pump that's probably gonna fail? Especially because like maybe it was the problem. That fucking motor's blown. So I don't really want to use that oil pump on here. So just in case anyone runs into this situation here, or if I'm not sure if I'm like missing something and this has already been done before. I didn't find anything on Google. And I don't really talk to my local groups because they got some toxic people on them who are very elitist. So I'd rather be like the type who are like, I don't know everything, but I'm also willing to experiment, learn, and make and whatnot. But anyways, and this one is 10 millimeter and a little bit fatter. This does not thread into the NA 1.8 oil pump at all. So I was digging through my oh shit bin and I didn't even find a spare of this bolt. So if I lose this bolt, I'm actually fucked. So I'm probably gonna thread lock this bolt too, just in case, because I have no replacements for that. Figured you guys enjoy this little update as I'm working through, because that was a major, I would say, hiccup, holdup on this whole reassembly conversion process. But now that's great news, because now I don't have to take off the oil pan to put the fucking sensor on, because now I know for sure, because I took the crank pulley here, all right, and then sized it up, and you'll actually see the little teeth. So that's a tooth right there. I might need to get the flashlight so you can see. Oh. Let's dual wield this. There we go. Now we got the flashlight. So you'll see the little tooth there. That tooth is going to pass by the sensor and it's going to read it. And then that's going to be the trigger mark for each time it passes by. So that is actually almost the exact same spot I need it to be too, which is fantastic. So that was actually very, very, very good. It's right there. So if I actually move that sensor forward, it actually would scrape, which is like good. That's actually great because that means it's exactly where I need it to be in terms of fitment on this bad boy. So I'm very happy about that. You actually got to be really careful not to let that hit that, because that's actually how these sensors get killed, is when they're too close to the crank and they get chewed up by it. But anyways, hope you guys enjoy this little bullshit, little trick of the trade, I guess, at the moment that I'm working on with this. So, back onto the build. Let's get going and get this motor try to hopefully be finished tonight. Okay, it is getting late tonight. We have made some really good progress on the motor. Fantastic, everything's starting to snowball as hoped, which is great. So, the motor itself is actually almost done, which is fan-fucking-tastic. We are running out of parts that need to go on it and torqued on it. So, let's check out where we're at. Alright, so motor here, the cylinder head is now torqued on. We are Gucci on that. We have the cam seals replaced. Fantastic. We have the torque set on the cam gears and the cam gears returned to their appropriate timing positions here. So that should be good. Crescent wrenches are now relocked. A little trick to hold the cam gears in place. Cam plate is done on there locked. I've been marking all the bolts that I have torqued. So like cam plate has been cleaned and torqued and returned. This thing has been torqued and returned. So this is the easy access part. So we actually did not get a thermostat to replace on this. I don't know why it wasn't ordered. So it'll be one of those things where if it needs to get changed, you can easily change it, or I can change it, whatever. It wasn't exactly in the whole thing of parts and whatnot. So we're not doing that. Thankfully, it's one of those easy things to replace if it needs to get done. It's literally smack right on the front. Super easy 2 bolts. The gaskets were all made and done and changed on the water pump here. Water pump is in torque set. We have everything cleaned on the oil pump. The crank gear is nice and smooth and clean. It literally free spins, which is fantastic. If you've ever dealt with these things can seize and get stuck to here. This one literally glides on, which is absolutely mint. We have as earlier, the knock sensor was put on the harness here, transferred over, which is nice, tightened up onto the block. We have everything over here waiting on the alternator. That's when this can really start coming to shape over here. And I'm about to do the timing belt assembly on here. We're finally to the timing belt on here. AC is torqued on and ready. This is Gucci, which is fantastic. I just have the bolts here for the actual hard lines itself. Power steering is going to go on very shortly. The motor mounts have been torqued on, and also the plates have been torqued on. So this is ready to go. These are aftermarket mid-level rev shift motor mounts. They're a little stiffer, not quite polyurethane like, I mean, they are polyurethane pucks, but apparently these are like the middle stiffness. I think it's comp stiffness. I don't know. They seem really stiff, so this is probably going to be really a lot of NVH. So, solid as fuck. Got the nuts ready on here. I followed the instructions on this thing where it add Loctite to each stud. So that's been done, and then the rear nut on there has been torqued as well. These have been torqued. This is all set to drop in, which is great. This is nice and solid. Haven't really done anything on the back of the motor yet. I think that's when we're gonna wait until this is down on the ground, because I gotta still do like the whole like rear main seal, clutch assembly, and then put the transmission on, blah blah blah. So the rear has not been fucked with yet. We will definitely get to that. That'll be another day. Trying to button up the majority of the motor first, and then finally, like once we have like the valve cover on, that's when this is gonna really start feeling like it's all together. So we're coming along, we're steaming along fantastic. This is a great conversion process. I'm super stoked that we figured out how to get the crank position sensor all done up. I'm still gonna add a drop of Loctite on there, run the wire up, and then try to get it so it's, you know, permanently in its home. It's actually conveniently, I think it's in its position right now. This is a shame. But anyways, I'm gonna get the feeler gauge out if I could find the old thing, and otherwise I will just wing it with a credit card, and that'll be Gucci, because the credit card gap is pretty much exactly what you're looking for between the crank pulley and the sensor itself. It's close enough to read it, but not to touch it. That's what you're looking for. Everything looking absolutely fantastic here, which is great. We did not touch the intake manifold, so this is good. We don't need to fuck with that. I love it. And this thing should be almost fucking done. I was looking at it, now I was thinking about it, I was looking at the cylinder head on this motor. This motor was fucking clean in comparison to the one that we have down here. The one that was blown is absolutely disgusting. I mean, it makes sense. This one's got like 100, you know, 80,000 miles on it. But this is one gross motor. So yeah, she's gonna fucking sing when she's done. Especially so like, you know, everything's all nice and cleaned up, and really went over everything as much as possible. So hopefully everything comes together absolutely top notch. So let's go a little bit more tonight, and then we are gonna wrap it up and continue tomorrow. So let's do a little bit more. Every night is a long process. Good job. There's so much shit. If you don't get to see it in the videos, I tend to cut it out. It's quite boring. But at the moment, I'll show you just a little bit. I've been working on it still. It's still plenty more. But there's always so much to clean up, especially when you're working on a big project like, you know, tearing apart and rebuilding the motor. And this is more like a semi-rebuild. Like, you know, this is not involving changing piston rings or, you know, pistons or rods or whatnot. This is literally like hot swapping. Oh, we're just harvesting organs from other Miatas to save other Miatas. So it's like stealing a block from another Miata, fix another Miata. Some minor conversion. Very minor. So, very happy with today's progress. She came along very nicely. But now there's lots of tools everywhere. I never get home on time because there's so much to do. I'm also really fucking summer. I'll just keep working. So I have to like try to like hit every cutoff point. Stop. We're gonna end it here today. Next time we'll finish as much as possible on this motor. If not, actually just get it done. I was hoping to get more done today, but today was a very good progress day, especially because it was a little bit of figuring shit out. The big stump was that little sensor for the crank, and thankfully I figured it out, even though the internet was not helpful on that. I couldn't find anything. I googled. So the only response that I saw on one of the threads was just make sure you have a threaded spot for the sensor. I was like, how the fuck does that help when it's literally different? There's a threaded spot for it, but the way it's designed is a different way of mounting the sensor. So when there's a will, there's a way. Just make it yourself. At least the motor is really wrapped up. It's almost done. It's got just a little bit left, and then we can start working on putting the transmission on, wrap that all up. Should be good, solid, and then we can drop her back inside the Miata. So that's it for tonight. We're gonna continue on tomorrow. Try to get on it as soon as possible. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.